So one of my most favorite things to do in the entire world is to go snorkeling. It's been a while, pre-kids, but I can still remember the bliss that I felt when I would put my face in the water and how mesmerized I would get just spying on all of these schools of fish darting here and there and somehow managing not to collide. One of my favorite memories near and dear to my heart is when we were on the big island of Hawaii. I completely lost all track of where I was. My surroundings disappeared, and I traveled much further than I had intended because I was busy making friends with a giant sea turtle. He was on one side of me, and then under, and then the other side. I think we were just good old buddies by the time I looked up and heard Matt calling for me, wondering where I had gone. I've heard it said that the closest place to heaven on earth is underwater. And I have to concur that I feel close to God when I have my fins on. But as much as I revel in being in the seawater, searching out all of these other creatures, I can probably only last snorkeling about an hour, maybe 2 at a time, before I get tired or hungry. There's something about that salt water that just wears me out. I certainly could not last for 53 hours without stopping to pull upside the beach or up on a boat to take a cat nap, or probably a dozen cat naps. But that is exactly what Diane Naya did this past Labor Day weekend. At 64 years old, Diane is the first person in recorded history to swim the 110 miles from Cuba to the Florida Keys. She was a professional long-distance swimmer and first attempted the swim way back in 1978. But that time she failed due to the strong winds that banged her body up against the shark cage that was supposed to protect her. So when she turned 60, she decided that she didn't want to have any regrets in this life and became determined that she would make this swim. Well, it took 4 more tries. Most of them ended due to jellyfish or weather or health issues that arose. But this last time, she had no shark cage and only a bodysuit and a silicone face mask to protect her from the jellyfish. And she did it. And she was on the Ellen DeGeneres show and told us all about it. One of the stories that she shared is that though there are other sports that take a lot of endurance, something uniquely challenging to long-distance swimming is that one becomes sensory deprived. There are no trees, no mountains, no people to look at, just the water. And so to deal with this, she has about 85 songs in her head that she replays or re-sings to herself, and then several novels that she retells herself. But it is pretty much inevitable that her brain will turn to mush. She told us that on her previous swim, on her 4th swim, there was a moment where she looked down and she was certain she saw the yellow brick road. But on the yellow brick road, it wasn't Dorothy or the Munchkins. No, she saw the 7 dwarfs from Snow White, singing hi-ho, we're off to work we go. Well, she was understandably startled. And she turned to her coach, who was in the boat right next to her, and told her what she saw. Well, her coach, very calmly, said, yes, you're right. That's right there. And they are going the same direction you are, so just keep following them. A little confused, Diane followed and kept swimming. I think there's probably times in all of our lives when we've had to just keep swimming, when things just seem confusing, they don't make sense, they don't fit with our ideas of logic, what we have known to be true. It's probably these times that we need to stir up our faith and trust, and remember the saying that the more we know that the less we know. I suspect Peter had to stir up some of that faith and trust in today's gospel. We hear him mostly referred to as Simon, but Simon Peter is the disciple that he became. Peter was a fisherman. Not a flashy job, but one that I'm sure he took pride in, and he worked hard at. He had just spent all night out on the lake, fishing, and did not catch anything. We can only imagine how exhausted, how frustrated he must have been as he pulled into shore. And then he had this man, this stranger, hop aboard his boat in order to use his deck as a stage. Well, I guess Peter must have found Jesus compelling because he didn't kick him off. He let him stay. What was it that Jesus was teaching that day to all of the crowd gathered there that they found so captivating? What was it that caused Peter to respect him so much that he followed Jesus' absurd direction to take his boat back into the lake and cast his nets down one more time? And it seems a little presumptuous, don't you think? Jesus was a carpenter. What did he know about fishing? This was Peter's livelihood. And yet, he did it. I think there was something in that moment when he looked down and he saw his nets overflowing. Something in Peter changed. And he knew that Jesus must know a little something about the lake and the mysteries of God. And so he did the only thing that made sense at that moment. He dropped everything and followed. You know, all this talk about ocean and water got me thinking I had almost blocked it out. But in undergrad and college, I did take a class on oceans to fulfill a science requirement. I have to confess that I scraped by with C. All the talk about the currents changing and what that all meant and the different layers of seabed, that all was like a foreign language to me. I'm not good with foreign languages. But I do remember the discussions about how everything is interconnected. One thing affects another, which affects another. There's a domino effect. Pollution comes down and changes the current, which affects the temperature, which changes the ecosystem, which then changes our climate. There's like a domino effect from one piece of trash. It's kind of amazing. You think that maybe everything was put in a certain place for a reason. Maybe kind of like the writer of Job has God tell us, just a little sarcastically, I love that sarcasm. God had intention and design when God placed each drop of water in the puzzle. Wow. It makes us wonder, we to think we are so much better than God? Why do we think it is such a necessity to have these nuclear power plants that we put right next to the ocean? What gives us the right to dump 180 million tons of toxic waste into the world's oceans, rivers, and lakes each year? And are we really so hungry we can only think about this moment, today, not tomorrow? Industrial fishing takes only 10 to 15 years to wipe out a good tenth of whatever species they target. Must we overfish and cause all these species to go extinct? You know, not living right next to the ocean, sometimes it's easy to think, well, maybe this doesn't really affect me. But what we allow to happen to our oceans and rivers, our lakes, our seas, well, that comes back to us in the food we eat. What kind of chemicals are in that sushi that I want? Is it safe? What about the water we brush our teeth in? And it shows up in the flooding in Colorado, and in birth defects, and neurological disorders, just to name a few things. I just wonder why we think that we must send off all of this garbage off into the abyss, just like Pastor Dan was talking about, just because we don't want it on dry land with us. Maybe it's time we start thinking about the bigger picture of God's creation. Maybe it's time to take that challenge and change, as illogical as it may seem, so that we can be in line with how things were intended to be. Because God's power is transformative. And just look at Simon Peter. He went from being a fisherman to a fisher of men. God changed Peter's heart, I think, that day at the lake. And God changes our hearts in our baptism when we are called and claimed and interconnected to all of God's creation. Maybe the bizarre thing would be to not allow God to change us. As nonsensical as it may seem, and it may seem like following a yellow brick road with 7 doors. But don't we want our grandchildren and our grandchildren's grandchildren to have that chance to experience heaven underwater? Whether they're snorkeling aimlessly or beating Diane Nyad's record. We weren't there when God shut the doors of the sea. But I think it's time that we're here now when we begin to help creation be what God created it